Le azioni per favorire il cambio di...
Now, actions to promote changes of paradigms are many. We have Dr. Bezzoletti, who's a medical doctor, member of the parliament in Italy, and talks about sustainable intentions, which would be legislation to support the changes to promote a longer living Europe, more sustainable and more resilient Europe.
Grazie davvero dell'invito.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm here because what I've tried to do is get into Italian legislation intention-based communities, and thanks to the important work we've done together, we have developed a text which came into the legal process in the last legislature. We're coming to the end of that now in the 18th term. I was one of the first, I had the honor of being the first signatory of this draft law. It hasn't yet been approved, but we are following things closely, and there are many things that have enabled this proposal to evolve, become more mature. It's quite complex, given the process. It was initially considered in the Constitutional Affairs Committee, which is also the committee that had members who tried to torpedo the text. So we've seen, classic political maneuvers to try to stop the text. It was very difficult to get it through the committee. It has a very full agenda, and given that the work of government is very much focused on the need to recognize what already exists legally and legislatively at the legal level, the basic community is the family. There isn't really any language that allows the recognition of a community of intention. Now, this is the language that we have at the moment. A community is a group of individuals collected around an intention or a project who have the intention of promoting this community of intention, an intention-based community. Now, it might be that this would benefit marginalized individuals, threatened heritage, protection of traditions, of old schools. It might also improve the safety and security of any given area. It also has significant environmental impacts. People care very much about their environment. It could also have a social and economic impact. For example, solidarity-based cohabitation. But as I've said, this isn't in law yet. There are many different aspects, and what we're trying to do is identify those aspects, including the environment, for example, recognizing the mutual duties and responsibilities that exist within any community. These communities also need to be, or would also need to be included on a register, which is held by the ministry. Have a look at this photo. It's an aspect that I've been talking about, an aspect rather, which might seem very technical, talking about laws and legislation, and we need to have a look at the effects of these legislation. I have been a parliamentarian. In my first term as parliamentarian, I've managed to establish a health assessment for major projects. Now that might not appear much, but if you think about major projects that exist, like oil refineries, it is essential that health be a part of that. We've also focused not only on major projects, but smaller projects as well. Once, of course, you have this provision for major projects, you can extend that, making sure that you have a social assessment that applies for small local projects like incinerators. And you know, the effect of that could be no new incinerators being built. So what's important is to include in national legislation this idea of an intention-based community. These communities which exist in life need to have some kind of reflection in law. They need to be recognized as being real. And at the moment, legislation is really behind on that. There is an obligation in Italy for all of the data relating to health in any given territory to be published. There is an obligation of transparency. At the moment, such data is published once every 5 years, so it doesn't really enable you to assess what's going on in every given territory. But the decree in this context has enabled this data to be published on an ongoing basis. So we've seen a paradigm shift. And within that paradigm shift, we need to focus on nutrition. I think of my grandchild, Luca. And here he is in this photo. He can't just sit here alone. He needs to be given food. He needs to be taken care of. Now, do we want to give him processed food? Probably not so good. We need to recognize how it is that children need to eat so that they can develop well. We can't give them processed food with processed meat, homogenized. What nature tells us, in contradiction to the doctors recommending this, is that children need to respond to their natural appetites, and once they start being able to sit around 8 months, they can certainly take on solid foods. There is one community that has been recognized, an energy community. It enabled there to be an integrated energy bill. There are 40 energy communities which have been established in Italy, 5 of them in our region. Many other different aspects are important here and which are being considered. And the result of this particular community is that there's less energy bills or less expensive energy bills. Also, there has been an important impact on renewables, less oil being used. So these energy savings are obviously very relevant at the moment. After 3 or 4 years, their impact is significant. The energy community, as it grows, will encourage renewable energies, be a positive impact for peace, and will certainly serve the reduction of the impact of fossil fuels. Article 27 of the 2022 decree was significant. We saw that it's a very important issue that was established because of this. there's a lot of money involved in all of this, $500 million. It is all about integrating the idea of intentional communities. There's a lot of experience that already exists. People have a lot of experience in the area of food. A lot of people know this picture from Chef Rouen. But often it wasn't clear where the goods were going. For example, cereals from Ukraine. There are multiple pathological aspects when you look at the way that we approach these issues. Food and energy take very little into account when it comes to what we need to do for a healthy planet. So energy communities are an answer to ongoing conflicts. We have a war on our doorsteps, and we need to be able to look for ways which can lead to a paradigm shift. And intentional communities are definitely one of these, so I hope they'll be recognized as soon as possible.